It is 12:47 in the morning. The room is dark except for the light from your phone. You are staring at a conversation that has taken more peace from you than it ever gave back. You type a message, delete it, then type another. You tell yourself you only want clarity, maybe closure, maybe one honest answer, but beneath those reasonable words is a harder truth. You do not want an answer. You want relief. You want the silence to stop feeling like rejection. You want one notification to prove that you still matter. For a few minutes, it probably would. Their name would appear, your body would relax, and the night would feel less empty. Then the uncertainty would begin again. This is how people slowly abandon themselves. Not through one dramatic decision, but through small concessions repeated in private. They stay available for someone inconsistent. They lower standards to avoid losing access. They confuse anxiety with chemistry and exhaustion with depth. Then they say they are afraid of being alone. But are you truly afraid of being alone? Or are you afraid of meeting yourself without distraction? That question matters because being single does not automatically make you free. You can live without a partner and still organize your life around being chosen. You can spend every evening replaying conversations, checking profiles, and waiting for someone to rescue you from a life you have not learned to inhabit. Real singleness begins when your attention returns to you. It begins when solitude stops being a waiting room and becomes a place of construction. Without constant romantic noise, you can finally see where your identity is weak, where your discipline collapses, and where you have asked affection to do work that belongs to you. The Stoic perspective is simple. You cannot control another person's interest, timing, honesty, or commitment. But you can control whether uncertainty rules your day. You can govern your standards, routines, work, and the meaning you give to silence. This video is not an argument against love. It is an argument against abandoning yourself to obtain it. You will learn why loneliness feels urgent, how attention becomes dependence, and how to build a single life so complete that a future relationship becomes a choice, not a rescue. If this pattern feels familiar, leave a like as a quiet sign that you are willing to face it honestly. And before you send that message tonight, stay with me, because the first truth you need to hear is this. You may not actually miss the person. You may not miss the person as much as you miss what their attention did to you. When they replied quickly, you felt important. When they called, the day felt lighter. When they disappeared, your mood fell with them. Their presence became less like companionship and more like emotional regulation. That is why separation feels confusing. You remember the voice, the jokes, the routines, but memory edits. It preserves warmth and removes repetition. It shows you the best evening and hides the night spent waiting and doubting yourself. So ask a more precise question. What exactly do I miss? Do you miss their character or the relief of being wanted? Their consistency or the escape from loneliness? The relationship as it was, or the future you imagined? This matters because vague grief creates vague behavior. When you say, I miss them, your mind treats contact as the only solution. When you identify the real need, you regain options. Tonight, make a specific loss inventory. What do I miss most? What feeling did this person provide? What did contact with them cost me? How else can I meet that need without betraying myself? Maybe you miss conversation. Call a friend. Maybe you miss warmth. Spend time with family, exercise, or care for your body instead of reopening confusion. Maybe you miss feeling chosen. Then build evidence that your value does not disappear when one person becomes unavailable. You may genuinely miss them. The purpose is not to become cold. It is to stop treating longing as proof that you should return. Eyes this distinction. And you may keep going back because withdrawal is uncomfortable, not because the connection is healthy. You will mistake relief for reconciliation. Remember this. You are not always grieving the person. Sometimes you are grieving the version of yourself who felt chosen around them. Once you see that clearly, the next truth becomes easier to face. Loneliness is painful, but it is not an emergency. Loneliness is painful, but it is not an emergency. The problem begins when you treat every uncomfortable feeling as an instruction. You feel forgotten, so you reach for your phone. You feel restless, so you reopen a dating app. You feel rejected, so you contact someone you already know cannot give you peace. The emotion is real. The command is not. A Stoic does not deny the first reaction. He questions the second. You may not control the sudden heaviness in your chest, the memory that appears without warning, or the urge to be reassured. But you can decide whether that feeling is allowed to govern your next move. Use a simple rule. Do nothing for 20 minutes. Do not send the message. Do not check their profile. Do not post something designed to be noticed. Set the phone down and name the feeling precisely. Is it loneliness, boredom, shame, physical desire, fear that they have moved on? The more accurate the name, the less power the feeling has to disguise itself as destiny. Then move your body. Take a short walk, shower, clean one part of the room. Breathe slowly enough to let the urgency pass through you without turning it into action. After 20 minutes, ask one question: will this choice still look dignified tomorrow morning? This is not suppression. You are not pretending to feel nothing. You are creating space between discomfort and obedience. A man told himself he was following his heart every time he returned to an inconsistent woman. In reality, he was following the fastest route out of loneliness. Each message brought relief for an hour and confusion for another week. That is the cost of treating loneliness like an alarm. You keep choosing immediate comfort over long-term self-respect. Practice the 20-minute non-reaction rule today. Use it before any impulsive message, search, call, or post. The goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to stop giving temporary feelings permanent authority, because once you stop reacting to every wave, you begin to notice something unexpected. The silence you feared may be returning something valuable to you. The silence you feared may be returning something valuable, your attention. When you are invested in an uncertain connection, your mind rarely rests. You read messages. You notice response times. You imagine what a short reply means. You rehearse conversations while trying to work, train, eat, or sleep. It does not look dramatic from the outside, but attention is consumed in fragments, and fragments add up. Consider a man who believed he had lost his ambition. Every evening, he sat down to work on a business idea, then checked his phone. One message became 20 minutes of analysis. No message became an hour of wondering. He called himself lazy. After the relationship ended, something unexpected happened. His energy did not return immediately, but his concentration did. The problem was not a lack of discipline. He had been donating his best mental hours to uncertainty. Some people do not need more motivation. They need to stop giving their concentration to what they cannot control. Run an attention audit today. Write down how much time you spend checking, waiting, interpreting, fantasizing, recovering, or changing plans around romantic attention. Then ask, which goal repeatedly disappears when someone new enters my life? Do not answer with what sounds impressive. Look at your behavior. Maybe your workouts become irregular, your reading stops, your sleep changes. A project that mattered suddenly receives whatever energy is left. Now reclaim 1 hour. Choose the same hour each day for the next 30 days and attach it to one measurable project. Train, study, build, write, repair your finances. Do not use that hour to be productive in general. Give it a clear purpose and track visible progress. The mistake is using work to numb yourself. This is not an escape from feeling. It is a return of authority over attention. Seize this, and every new attraction will rearrange your life before trust has been earned. Protect it, and you will discover that singleness does not merely remove a person. It makes your own life audible again. A relationship can become more than companionship. It can become identity support. You stop saying, "I want this person," and begin living as if their presence proves something about you. Being chosen feels like evidence that you are desirable, safe, or finally enough. Then being single no longer feels neutral. It feels like exposure. That is why some people stay in relationships they have outgrown. They are not only afraid of losing the person, they are afraid of losing the version of themselves that existed beside that person. You see it in ordinary moments. Someone arrives alone at a wedding and feels behind. Another posts every affectionate gesture online because private happiness does not feel real without public confirmation. Someone else changes opinions, routines, even personality to remain attractive. The question is simple. Who am I when nobody is choosing me? Do not answer it with slogans. Answer it with evidence. Use the identity without an audience exercise. Complete these sentences. When nobody is impressed, I still value. When nobody is watching, I consistently. The standards I keep even when affection is available are: a life I would respect without public approval would include. Your answers reveal whether your identity has structure or only presentation. The mistake is turning independence into another performance. You do not need to advertise how little you need anyone. That is still dependence if your self-image requires an audience. Real independence is quieter. Your schedule, principles, health, work, and friendships do not collapse the moment attention appears. You can enjoy being wanted without making it the foundation of your worth. Enjoy this, and every relationship will carry too much weight. You will ask another person to hold together an identity you have not built yourself. But once you stop using relationships as proof of who you are, singleness changes. It stops feeling like a verdict and becomes a test of integrity, and that test reveals something deeper. What has romance been helping you avoid? Sometimes, romance does not solve your problems. It hides them. A new connection can make a disordered life feel meaningful for a while. The messages structure the day. The anticipation creates energy. The attention distracts you from the work you have postponed, the friendships you have neglected, the money you avoid looking at, or the body you keep promising to care for. Then the connection becomes uncertain, and everything you were avoiding returns at once. This is why some people rush from one relationship into another. They are not always chasing love. They are escaping the silence in which their unfinished life becomes visible. Ask yourself an uncomfortable question. If the perfect partner entered my life tomorrow, what problem would I secretly expect their presence to solve? Would you expect them to make you more disciplined, less lonely, more confident? Would you hope that being loved would finally make your ordinary days feel worth living? A partner may support you and walk beside you, but they cannot carry responsibilities that belong to your character. Use the empty chair test. Imagine the person you want sitting beside you. They care about you, but they cannot fix your finances, complete your work, repair your habits, settle family tensions, or create self-respect on your behalf. What remains yours? That answer is where your real work begins. Within the next 24 hours, do 3 things. Complete 1 administrative task you have delayed. Repair 1 neglected part of your environment. Make 1 decision you have postponed while waiting to feel better. Keep the actions small and specific. Pay the bill, book the appointment, clean the desk, send the necessary email. Cancel the commitment you already know is wrong. Do not use self-improvement as punishment. The goal is not to prove that you need nobody. It is to stop asking another person to rescue you from responsibilities you can begin facing today. And tell me in the comments, without sharing more than you want to, what part of your life have you been hoping a relationship would make easier? Once you stop using romance as anesthesia, singleness becomes something different. It becomes a place where you can finally build a life you do not need to escape. A single life without structure can become a soft form of decline. The days are technically yours, but they disappear into late mornings, endless scrolling, irregular meals, casual conversations, and promises to begin tomorrow. You are free from a relationship, yet still controlled by impulse. That is why intentional singleness needs architecture. Build it around 4 pillars: body, work, people, and silence. The body comes first because disorder spreads. Keep a regular sleep time. Move every day. Eat in a way that supports your energy. Take care of your appearance even when nobody is coming over. These are not cosmetic details. They are signals that your life deserves maintenance without an audience. The second pillar is work. Choose 1 demanding project that creates visible progress. It may be professional, financial, creative, or practical. The project must require enough effort to organize your attention, but not so much that it becomes another place to hide. The third pillar is people. Singleness should not mean emotional starvation. Call family, strengthen friendships, join a group, help someone. A healthy life includes connection that is not romantic, performative, or transactional. The fourth pillar is silence. Spend some time each week without music, dating apps, videos, or messages. Walk, write. Sit with your thoughts long enough to hear what constant stimulation has been covering. A realistic week might include 3 workouts, 5 focused work sessions, 1 evening with friends or family, and 1 hour alone without a screen. Simple does not mean weak. Repeated structure is what gives freedom shape. The mistake is filling every minute, so you never have to feel lonely. Busyness can become another form of avoidance. The goal is not to become too busy to feel. It is to build a life strong enough to hold what you feel, and singleness becomes passive waiting. Build it deliberately, and it becomes preparation for a better relationship with yourself. And with anyone who may enter later, standards are easiest to describe when nobody is testing them. You can say you want honesty, consistency, maturity, and peace. Then attraction appears, and suddenly every rule becomes negotiable. A delayed reply becomes they are busy. Mixed signals become they are complicated. Disrespect becomes they are wounded. This happens because desire changes the question. Instead of asking, is this person right for my life? You begin asking, how can I keep this person interested? That is where self-abandonment begins. Standards must be built before temptation arrives. Divide them into 3 levels. First, non-negotiable character traits: honesty, respect, responsibility, reliability, and alignment in values. These are not preferences. Without them, the relationship becomes expensive. Second, important preferences, lifestyle, communication style, ambition, social habits, or long-term goals. Differences here may be workable, but only when discussed honestly. Third, flexible details. Taste in music, hobbies, minor routines, or personality differences that do not threaten trust or direction. Prompt your own list while you are calm. Then add one final question. What behavior will make me leave, even if I am deeply attracted? This matters because standards without consequences are only wishes. When inconsistency appears, do not attack, chase, or perform indifference. Speak clearly. I enjoy talking with you, but I am looking for communication that is more consistent. I do not want to force something that does not naturally align. That sentence does not control the other person. It governs your participation. The mistake is using standards as a weapon. They are not a way to punish people for being different. They help you recognize when difference becomes incompatibility. Nice this work, and attraction will keep writing contracts your future self has to pay for. You will enter relationships, hoping chemistry will eventually create character. But when your standards are clear, before emotion becomes intense, you stop asking whether someone likes you enough. You begin asking whether the connection deserves access to the life you have built. There is a difference between peace and avoidance, and from the outside, they can look almost identical. Both may involve silence. Both may involve distance. Both may involve saying no. But peace comes from clarity. Avoidance comes from fear after betrayal or disappointment. Discipline can become armor. You train harder, work longer, speak less, and tell yourself you no longer need anyone. At first, this feels like strength. You are no longer chasing, no longer begging, no longer waiting for replies. But ask yourself carefully, have you become calm or merely unreachable? A man once rebuilt his life after a painful relationship. He improved his health, doubled his focus, and cut out every situation that made him feel vulnerable. People admired his discipline. Yet, whenever someone kind tried to know him, he found a flaw, withdrew, and called it discernment. He had not healed his judgment. He had made safety his highest value. This is where Stoicism is often misunderstood. Emotional control does not mean emotional disappearance. Detachment is not contempt. Strength is not the ability to avoid every person who might disappoint you. Use the open door. Guarded house, reframe. Your heart does not need to be open to everyone, but it should not be sealed against everyone either. Let character earn access slowly. Let consistency matter more than charm. Let trust grow from behavior, not fantasy. Today, choose one safe act of openness. Accept an invitation you would normally decline. Call a friend and speak honestly. Thank someone without hiding behind humor. Tell a trusted person what has been difficult instead of saying, "I'm fine." The mistake is forcing vulnerability before trust exists. Openness without judgment is recklessness. But judgment without openness becomes isolation. Peace does not require a locked heart. It requires a guarded entrance. If you stay single because you are building, learning, and choosing carefully, solitude can strengthen you. If you stay single because no one is allowed close enough to affect you, fear is still making the decisions. And fear becomes especially convincing when the world keeps telling you that you are running out of time. The fear of being behind is rarely created by your life alone. It is created by comparison. You attend a wedding, and suddenly your progress feels invisible. You open social media and see engagements, anniversaries, children, and photographs that compress years of struggle into one polished moment. Then someone asks, Are you seeing anyone? And the question lands like an accusation. But another person's visible milestone is not a measurement of your worth. You do not see the compromises behind every relationship. You do not see the arguments, doubts, timing, or quiet incompatibilities. You see an announcement and compare it with your uncertainty. That is not an equal comparison. The Stoic response is to separate what belongs to you from what does not. You cannot control when the right person appears, whether someone chooses you, or how quickly a relationship develops. You can control your conduct, standards, and whether pressure makes you accept what does not fit. When someone asks why you are still single, answer without apology. I am open to the right relationship, but I am not interested in forcing the wrong one. Or say, my life is not on hold. I am building it carefully. Say it calmly, then change the subject. You do not owe everyone an explanation for your timing. The mistake is turning patience into bitterness. Do not mock people who chose differently. Do not use independence to hide envy. Their path does not threaten yours. Ignore this principle, and social pressure will make temporary discomfort feel like evidence that you should rush. You may commit to avoid embarrassment, then spend years paying for a decision made in one anxious season. A relationship is not an achievement simply because it exists. Its quality matters. The person you become inside it matters. You are not behind because your life does not resemble someone else's calendar. You are only behind when fear makes your decisions. And the final test is not whether you can remain alone. It is whether you can choose love without asking it to rescue you. The final test is not whether you can remain alone. It is whether you can choose love without asking it to rescue you. Many people call themselves ready for a relationship because they feel lonely, loyal, or emotionally intense. But readiness is not measured by how strongly you feel. It is measured by how well you remain yourself while feeling strongly. Can you like someone without rearranging your life around their attentions? Can you express a need without manipulating, threatening, or pretending not to care? Can you stay curious long enough to observe their character instead of projecting a future onto them? A healthy relationship does not require perfect independence. It requires enough inner stability that affection does not erase judgment. Before you invest deeply, ask 4 questions. Do I want to know this person, or do I want them to confirm something about me? Am I observing their behavior or falling in love with their potential? Can I maintain my work, friendships, sleep, and standards while attracted? Would I still respect myself if this connection ended? These questions do not remove risk. Love always involves uncertainty. Their purpose is to reveal whether you are choosing from clarity or bargaining from fear. The mistake is believing complete self-sufficiency is the goal. It is not. You are allowed to need companionship, tenderness, and support. But one person should not become your identity, purpose, only source of peace and escape from every unresolved part of life. When you can tolerate uncertainty without chasing, communicate without performing, and leave incompatibility without treating it as proof that you are unworthy, you are no longer searching for emotional adoption. You are ready for partnership. That is what intentional singleness prepares you for. Not a life without love, but a life in which love no longer requires self-betrayal. And now the deeper meaning of this season can finally be named. Intentional singleness is not a rejection of love. It is an apprenticeship in self-government. It teaches you how to feel loneliness without obeying it, how to desire connection without begging for it, and how to protect your standards when attraction tries to rewrite them. You learn that attention is a resource. When you stop giving it away to uncertainty, your work improves, your routines stabilize, and your own voice becomes easier to hear. You learn that identity cannot rest entirely on being chosen. It must be supported by what you practice, protect, and build when nobody is watching. You also learn that independence does not mean emotional exile. A strong life still includes friendship, family, community, honesty, and openness. The goal is not to become untouched. It is to become difficult to manipulate through fear, urgency, or loneliness. This is the Stoic advantage of the single season. You cannot command when love arrives. You cannot control who returns your feelings, how another person behaves, or whether a connection lasts. But you can govern the quality of the person who meets those events. You can become someone who pauses before reacting, asks better questions, keeps his promises to himself, and leaves situations that require self-betrayal. You can become someone who wants love without making it responsible for his worth. That is why staying single may be one of the best things you ever do, if you use it deliberately. Not because being alone is superior, not because relationships are weakness, but because this season can expose every place where you once confused etching with value, chemistry with character, and urgency with truth. Your task is not to make love arrive on schedule. Your task is to become incapable of abandoning yourself when it does. And that brings us back to the phone in your hand, the message on the screen, and the decision waiting to be made tonight. It is still 12:47 in the morning. The room is still dark. The message is still waiting on the screen. But now you understand what is actually happening. This is not only a conversation with another person, it is a decision about who governs your life when loneliness becomes loud. You do not need to swear that you will never contact them again. You do not need to pretend you feel nothing. You only need to stop abandoning yourself tonight. Put the phone down, take a sheet of paper, and write what you are truly feeling without turning it into a story about your worth. Write, I feel lonely, I feel rejected, I want reassurance. Name the experience without converting it into a command. Then do one stabilizing thing before you sleep. Wash the dishes. Prepare tomorrow's clothes. Read 10 pages. Take a slow shower. Set the room in order. Give your mind evidence that your life continues even when one person is absent. Before the day ends, complete 2 sentences. The pattern I will stop feeding is, the life I will begin building in its place is, keep the answer specific. Not I will become stronger. Say, I will stop checking their profile after midnight. Say, I will train tomorrow at 7. Say, I will spend 1 focused hour rebuilding the work I neglected. This is what staying single can become. Not a punishment, not a waiting room, and not a performance of independence. It can become the workshop where your attention returns, your standards harden, and your character becomes trustworthy to you again. Socrates, if you want to continue building this kind of calm self-command. And in the comments, write the real decision you will act on before tomorrow. Not a slogan, but one honest action. The phone is still in your hand, but the next move belongs to you.